Close your eyes and imagine this. A storm so massive it could swallow our entire planet 4 times over. And it's shaped like a perfect hexagon. Impossible? No, it's real. It's been spinning for centuries, and it's just one of Saturn's deadly secrets. Today, we're going to Saturn, but I'm warning you, nothing you think you know about this planet is true. For thousands of years, humans looked up at Saturn and smiled. We called it the jewel of space. That beautiful golden ball with its shining rings, floating peacefully in the darkness. Poets wrote about it, artists painted it. We thought it was the most elegant thing in our solar system, but we were completely wrong. Saturn isn't peaceful. Saturn is a nightmare wrapped in beauty. It's a trap, nature's most dangerous illusion. Let me tell you what Saturn really is. First, it's massive. You could fit 764 Earths inside Saturn. But here's the strange part. If you could find an ocean big enough, Saturn would float. Yes, float, because it's made almost entirely of hydrogen and helium gas. It's lighter than water, but don't let that fool you. This gas giant is spinning so violently, faster than any other planet, that it's actually crushing itself. The planet bulges at the middle like a balloon being squeezed. Scientists call this an oblate spheroid. I call it terrifying. Imagine a world spinning so fast it changes its own shape. The winds on Saturn reach 1,800 kilometers per hour. That's 5 times faster than the worst hurricane ever recorded on Earth. And here's something that will blow your mind. Saturn is screaming. NASA's Cassini spacecraft recorded radio emissions from the planet. When scientists converted those emissions to sound, they heard something that still gives them chills. A deep, haunting howl, like the planet itself is crying out into the emptiness of space. Now let's talk about those famous rings. From Earth, they look solid, like someone took a golden hula hoop and placed it perfectly around the planet. Beautiful, right? Peaceful, right? Wrong. If you flew a spacecraft into Saturn's rings, you wouldn't see beauty. You'd see chaos. You'd see death. The rings are not solid. They're made of billions, no, trillions of pieces of ice and rock. Some are as tiny as grains of sand. Others are as big as mountains. And they're all moving fast, crashing into each other at thousands of kilometers per hour. Imagine standing in the middle of a highway where every vehicle is made of razor-sharp ice, all moving in different directions, all colliding constantly. That's Saturn's rings. And they're thin, impossibly thin. The rings stretch nearly 300,000 kilometers wide. That's almost the distance from Earth to the moon. But in some places, they're only 10 meters thick, like a razor blade floating in space. But here's the darkest secret of all. Those rings, They're the remains of a murder. Scientists believe that long ago, Saturn had another moon, a large moon, maybe even as big as our own moon. This moon orbited peacefully for millions of years, until one day, it drifted too close. There's something called the Roche limit. It's an invisible line around every planet. If a moon crosses that line, gravity takes over, and not in a gentle way. Saturn's gravity grabbed this moon, and it ripped it apart. Not quickly, slowly, painfully. First, the outer layers were torn away. Then the crust. Then the core itself shattered into trillions of frozen pieces. Those beautiful rings we admire, they're not jewelry. They're the scattered remains of a dead world. We're looking at a crime scene. A planetary graveyard, orbiting Saturn like a ghostly reminder of its violence. And here's something even more disturbing. The rings are temporary. Saturn is slowly eating them. Gravity is pulling the ring material down into the planet's atmosphere. Scientists call it ring rain. In about 100 million years, the rings will be completely gone. Saturn is devouring the evidence. But the strangest thing about Saturn isn't its rings. It's what's at the North Pole. Nature doesn't make straight lines. Rivers curve, clouds swirl, hurricanes spin in circles. This is basic science. This is how physics works. So explain this. There's a perfect hexagon at Saturn's North Pole. Not almost a hexagon, not sort of shaped like a hexagon. A perfect six-sided shape. Each side is about 13,800 kilometers long. The whole thing is wider than Earth itself. And it's been there for decades, probably centuries, maybe longer. We don't know. This hexagon is actually a hurricane, but unlike any hurricane you've ever seen. The winds at its edges reach 400 kilometers per hour. The walls of this storm go hundreds of kilometers deep into the planet. At the very center of the hexagon is another mystery. A massive vortex. A spinning eye colored red and orange. It looks like a rose made of fire. A rose that never dies. Scientists still don't fully understand how this hexagon exists. They've created computer simulations. They've studied fluid dynamics. They have theories, but nothing like this exists anywhere else in our solar system. It's like Saturn is showing off, proving that it can break the rules, reminding us that we still don't understand this universe as well as we think we do. And that hexagon? It just keeps spinning, watching, waiting, like a giant eye staring into space. Every 30 years, roughly one Saturn year, something terrifying happens. A massive storm erupts from deep within the planet. We call it the Great White Spot. But that name doesn't capture how monstrous it really is. This storm wraps around the entire planet. Imagine a thunderstorm that covers every continent on Earth at the same time. Now multiply that by 10. The lightning in this storm is 10,000 times more powerful than any lightning on Earth. It churns up clouds of ammonia ice from deep inside Saturn, turning the golden planet ghostly white. And then, after a few months, the storm just stops. It disappears back into the depths, waiting for another 30 years to strike again. It's like Saturn has a heartbeat, a violent, explosive heartbeat that reminds its moons and us who's really in charge. Saturn isn't alone. It has more than 140 moons, a massive family orbiting this violent giant. But 2 of these moons are special and strange, and possibly hiding the biggest secret in our solar system. First, there's Titan. Titan is the only moon with a thick atmosphere. If you stood on its surface, you'd see clouds, rivers, lakes, rain falling from the sky. It would look almost like Earth. But it's not Earth. It's Earth's evil twin. The rain on Titan isn't water. It's liquid methane. Liquid natural gas falling from orange skies. The temperature is minus 179 degrees Celsius. Cold enough to freeze steel. Cold enough to shatter your body like glass. The ground? Not dirt, not sand. Plastic. The dunes on Titan are made of dark hydrocarbon grains, essentially plastic. These dunes are hundreds of meters high, charged with static electricity, shifting in the alien wind. Titan is a world that looks like it could support life, but it's built from the chemistry of death. Then there's Enceladus. For years we thought it was just a small frozen moon. Boring, dead. Until we looked closer. At its south pole there are long cracks in the ice. Scientists call them tiger stripes. And from these cracks, something incredible is happening. Geysers. Massive geysers of water shooting hundreds of kilometers into space. Not cold water, warm water, liquid water. Beneath Enceladus's frozen surface, there's a global ocean. Warm, salty, full of organic molecules, protected from the harsh vacuum of space by kilometers of ice. This moon checks every box we have for life. Everything we think life needs. Heat, water, chemistry, time. And here's the question that keeps scientists awake at night. Is something swimming in that dark ocean beneath the ice? In 2017, we had to say goodbye to our only messenger at Saturn. The Cassini spacecraft had been studying the planet for 13 years. It had shown us the hexagon. It had discovered the geysers on Enceladus. It had flown through the rings and lived to tell the story. But its fuel was running out. NASA faced a choice. Let Cassini drift in space until it crashed randomly into one of Saturn's moons, possibly contaminating a world that might harbor life, or end it on our terms. They chose the second option. On September 15th, 2017, Cassini received its final command. Dive into Saturn. Become one with the planet you've studied for so long. As Cassini fell through Saturn's atmosphere, it fought to keep its antenna pointed at Earth, sending data, screaming secrets, until the heat and pressure became too much, until the spacecraft melted, vaporized, became part of Saturn forever. It was a suicide mission, but it was also an act of love. Saturn is the most beautiful thing in our night sky, but beauty is dangerous. Beauty makes us forget that we're looking at a monster, a violent, chaotic, deadly giant that rips moons apart and wears their remains as jewelry. The rings are dying. Saturn is eating them. In 100 million years, they'll be gone. Saturn will be just another gas planet. Ordinary, forgettable. So look at Saturn while you can. Take a telescope. Find it in the night sky. See those rings with your own eyes, because you're not just looking at a planet. You're looking at a temporary masterpiece, a reminder that the universe doesn't care about us, a warning that the most beautiful things are often the most dangerous. Saturn is gorgeous, and that's exactly why it's terrifying.